All right, y'all. Welcome back to our weekly productivity call. We can see we don't have a whole lot of guests so far, at least, but still a little bit early, 11:02. I wanted to hit record because Blake and I were already jumping on unpacking last week's training with Jay, and I just want to make sure we didn't miss any good stuff. But I was asking, kind of Blake what his takeaways were, and he was talking about how it's difficult for new agents not to get lost on the over.
The oversimplification of the end product, I think, is a
Oh,
deep.
that's good. Oversimplify.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, when I watch somebody play golf, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go, that looks easy.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. So, but I was wanting to point out that there's some things that I think were very inspiring. Number one, Jay's not even from Alabama, much less Jasper. He has been able to ramp up his success relatively quickly. Like his first year was not even a full year. It was really productive. And, his second full year in business, he set a goal for 25 million. He's admitted he's not going to come close to that, but he likes to set big goals. He believes in setting big goals for himself, which I thought was important. And then two other things that I thought were big takeaways. The fact that he, started out big eyed, right? Focused on Birmingham. Like, I'm going to, that's the big city. That's where I need to be. And instead realized that settling on a smaller market where there is less fishermen in the same pond was a great idea. And then just the volunteering aspect of what he does, just his community involvement approach. We were talking before I hit record that Jay's just recently gotten KV Core. He doesn't really know how to use it. He's trying to set aside time every day to kind of get in there and play around. So that's awesome. I guess, kudos. I'm not sure if Realty South is providing that for them at a cost, but whether he bought it on his own or they're providing it, either of those things are great things to point out. The overall importance of the CRM, most agents just don't get it. They don't understand how important that is. And Jay understands, wow, this is really important. I'm meeting so many people. I'm developing so many relationships. I can't keep them straight in my head. I got to put them somewhere organized. And when you put them in a CRM, it's on the go with you on your phone. So it just goes everywhere with you. So that's the reason I've got this backdrop up today of Colin. This is a recent post that he made that I saved from Facebook. And Jay's approach is Colin's approach. They do the same exact thing. I don't know if Colin has a CRM. I do know that he is obviously heavily involved in his community, and he's consistently making social media posts about his community, about the good things that are going on in his community. He's just now starting to get into YouTube, things like that, video. I'm probably jumping the gun by saying YouTube, but he's working on getting more proficient with video. So this would be behind me one of the top takeaways, one of the top tactical initiatives for anybody following the call. Blake was talking about how, maybe it's intimidating. You're on a call, you're in a training, you're in a sales meeting, wherever you are, you're in the presence of a mega agent. They not only make it look easy, but it can be like, man, they must have something that I don't, or they're just very impressive. They have all this knowledge and I know nothing. I'm in the wrong business. I'm in the wrong place. And I just wonder what would happen for all of us if we took a page out of this playbook. Okay. So it's been probably, I think, 3 weeks since I sent like Alex a text or a Facebook message I just researched it. I mean, I'm talking like 10 seconds worth of research and said, all right, got on Google. What are some, Hispanic events in Birmingham that, Alex could get involved in from a volunteer perspective, and just send him a link or two from something to get involved in. And then the second point I was trying to make with Alex, and actually shared it to my Facebook story this morning, but was also quoting a book that I'm listening to on Audible called The Algebra of Happiness. The Algebra of Happiness by Scott Galloway. And one of the quotes that I've taken from, what I'm hearing so far on Audible is this amazing quote that the world belongs to the fast. The world belongs to the fast. People who have been in my trainings for a long time may recognize that or equate it to another, trading slogan that we've really hammered on, which is success favors speed. Success favors speed. So if I'm Alex and I haven't done anything, I haven't contacted these organizations, I haven't signed up to volunteer, then I'm not being fast because I sent him that 3 weeks ago and gave him that initiative, 3 weeks ago. Use Kevin as an example. Poor Kevin, many times in this call that he was advised to go volunteer for a political campaign. Never did it. Never did it. Never attempted to do it. I would say that's probably fair. He was given, as soon as he started, we're like, this is what you need to do. Go volunteer for a political campaign. Go volunteer for the Havocs. They have a bunch of volunteers. I'm sure the Trash Pandas have volunteers or could use volunteers. So he was told to go volunteer everywhere he could. He's in a new city. He needs to meet people, for God's sakes. I mean, this is the way to meet people. All right. You could also get a serving job. You can start waiting tables. There's lots of different things you can do.
Fast versus comfort, right? I think is what you're trying to get to. It's both of which are direct. One of them's going to prevent you from making money, right? You got to dive in. You can't wait to get comfortable and acclimate and all that stuff.
Well,
Is I think
it's also about thinking fast and acting fast. You've got these agents that get into the real estate business that literally spend months and sometimes a year or more just kind of figuring it all out. Like had this one agent that I was interested in recruiting until she made it very, very clear that, she really wasn't going to get her real estate business cranked up until she had like everything figured out, like had all of her systems figured out and had her niche figured out, just had all this stuff figured out, how to to role play. She had the scripts all in her mind. And I was like, geez, I mean, the cost of waiting just goes against these success principles, that success favors speed. The world belongs to the fast, which means the most successful, the happiest people in the world don't sit on their hands. They get out and make something happen. So, Blake, next time you hear Alex, expressing concern about his finances, you should ground him in this and be like, what have you done? What have you done to get out there and expand your network? If I was Alex, I would be having direct conversations with Rodrigo about where does his network come from? Was it from years spent in the flooring business, just meeting homeowner after homeowner after homeowner? What is he doing to expand his network and just take a page out of that playbook, but still not abandoning this? So we asked Jay about his production last week. Very, very impressive for a new agent, not in your first full year to sell more than 7 million. That's pretty impressive. And after doing that in not a full calendar year, the first full calendar year in front of him, he's like, well, shit, I'm gonna do 70. I'm gonna do 25 million. That's gonna be my standard. He mentioned his income to date, 250,000. He's got big goals. He wants to double that, this year. So that was impressive. Colin Krieger, this is a guy that has multiple pendings at any given time. He usually carries anywhere, I think, between 8 and 12 pendings, has a number of listings. I wish he was on so I could ask him, but Colin is buying up a lot of very inexpensive homes in his community and turning them into long-term real investments. So he's building a massive rental investment portfolio in Mississippi, has a massive sales business, a massive following, and he just starts out his day looking to connect with people on, I think, an abundant approach. Like, how can I help these people? What can I do for them? I would say Jay and Colin both are constantly trying to perfect the experience they provide to their buyers and sellers. How can I make this a very positive experience? And Colin has told stories on trainings on here about how he has created a positive experience with listings that have taken a year plus, maybe even 2 years to sell. There was I don't know if it's still the case, but there was a time in his market where the historic homes just were not selling. And, he renewed one of these listings like two or three times and it finally sold. How in the hell do you like have a customer that's, high-fiving you at the closing table after it took you like, a year and a half, 2 years to sell their property? That was impressive to hear from Colin. And again, all these interviews and things are, if you don't know this or have forgotten, they're on YouTube at jasonwilluniversity.com. You can go back and find these and watch these. Any comments on what we've been talking about so far? So what I'm really drilling down to here is that you are in control. Okay. Now, to be in control and to not feel like you're spiraling out of control, you have to take action. And that action has to be quick, it has to be fast. The most successful agents that we've ever had at our brokerage, the most successful agents I've ever met in person, have all been people that think fast and act fast. If somebody tells them at a conference, dude, you need to go home and implement this in your business, this has helped me, add a $250,000 leg income stream to my business, they don't go home and think about it for 6 months. They do some due diligence, and if it seems right for them, they sign up and they run with it. So this is one of these things where you don't have to spend money and you can start right away. Just looking, it's a constant thing you're looking to do on a weekly basis is to volunteer your time somewhere, to consistently volunteer your time. Concerns, comments? All right. Now, the other thing I was hoping that you guys were paying attention to in regards to Jay's call was that he has selected a market to focus on, and that is Jasper, Alabama. But as he mentioned, his business is well outside of Jasper, Alabama, because people sell and they move out of Jasper, or they're selling to move into Jasper from cities around his market, i.e., Birmingham. So, he's taking listings in Homewood and Mountain Brook and all kind of things. So you're not going to pigeonhole yourself if you select a market to cover. You're actually going to do yourself a big favor because you're not going to be watering down the market with all this different information. They're going to know what you focus on, where you focus, where you're an expert. And then the other thing, if you think about it, it's much easier to track the data in one specific zip code. So there's uber professional agents out there that either focus the vast majority, I'm talking like 95+% of their efforts on a single zip code or a single subdivision. Blake and I were talking about an agent who's been recognized by real producers up here in Birmingham that just focuses on Greystone. It's a big golf course community. She rarely sells outside of Greystone. So we need to think about, actually, we need to etch these success principles, these tactical principles in our brain. And then every time we want to internalize anxiety around our finances, our lack of production, the fact that we're not making, the leaderboard at our brokerage every month or consistently, we need to stop the overthinking and we need to stop the paralysis by analysis and just recognize that there's a handful of things that we really need to not only get good at, but get like relentlessly consistent at, that are going to move the needle by leaps and by bounds. Does that make sense? So what are they? What are they? We need to focus on an area. We need to select it and we need to become the local market expert on that area, the local market economist on that area, and then know everything about that area. Where's their live music? What's the newest restaurant in town? What are the favorite, appetizers at this restaurant, that restaurant? All the things. Where kids eat free on Thursday nights or whatever it is. You learn as much about the community as possible. All right. We've talked a lot about getting out and previewing those listings. You want to spend time in the office working on your business, following up with people, staying in front of your contacts with emails, text messages, phone calls, voicemails. We need to maintain good files. We need to provide great feedback after we show listings. Then we need to get out of the office and we need to go preview listings in our target zip code or our target subdivision if it's large enough. If it's large enough. All right. Now, when we get out of the office, that's also going to create content opportunities for us. Hey, it's your local Gardendale realtor, Alex Ruiz, out doing my weekly previews. I've come across an amazing property this morning or this afternoon, rather, that I think is a great deal. It's priced below market. I've checked the comps. It has amazing amenities. It's been updated. This one's not going to last long. You guys got to give me a call right away, and I'll hook you up with my preferred lender, who, if you qualify, can get you a 6.5 or 5.75 rate, whatever it is, through Alabama Housing. Bam. Okay. All right. Now, the other thing you want to be doing is hosting open houses within your target market, because you want to take listings in your target market. You want your directionals, your for sale directionals, your open house directionals, all to be local, hyper local in that target market, so that you are building your brand, which is your name. All right. So you got to wonder, or you don't have to wonder anymore, why this magic is not manifesting itself in your business, why it's just not growing organically, because you it's highly likely, let's say, that you're just not doing any of the things I'm saying and you never really have. All right. Several other examples or tactical things that you can implement in your business outside or in addition to volunteering, which, if you're a female, organize girls' nights out, wine club. If you're male, bourbon club, hunting, fishing, get involved in, like I said, a political party. Your college probably has, if you went to college and graduated, there's probably an alumni chapter in your marketplace. Now, been talking for about 23 minutes. Anybody got anything? Any takeaways? Any comments they want to make on why it is they feel paralyzed, or they're at least acting paralyzed? I would want you to take some inventory on the way you spend your time every week and what you're doing with it. So if you're in the office, you should be researching the MLS, breaking down all kind of data. If you don't know how to run reports through the MLS, you need to ask Blake or I. So we could have a Paragon, class. We could talk about that. There's a lot of things we can do, but running these reports is so easy. I mean, especially if you select a zip code, you just enter the zip code into the zip code field, and then you can run active, pending, and sold reports based on a specific date range. So year to date, March, April, whatever. So you should be studying that. You should be talking to people on the phone, communicating with people, follow up with your new leads, your existing prospects, your sphere of influence, working on your business, doing some planning. Maybe you got a brand, you're working on your logo, you're working on your listing presentation. All right, we got something in the chat. Let's go to the chat. Anissa says, I'm volunteering at Citizen Police Academy for 10 weeks for that exact reason. Well, hallelujah. Lula? Lula. Yeah, hallelujah. That's what it is, Blake. You don't know what you're talking about. So what we've got here is an opportunity to learn from Anissa, but what do we know that she needs to do?
She's becoming a cop?
No, but what I think she would need to do is, every stranger she meets through this volunteer opportunity, is work on building a relationship. So look at every stranger as an opportunity to build a relationship and start that dialogue. Be the proactive person that initiates, that conversation, starts, laying the foundation for a relationship. And who knows, it may be such a great experience. So we know from Colin and Jay that they have found, and I think it probably took some trial and error, but they found the organizations that they enjoy. Like it's a cause that speaks to them. Jay talked about how rewarding it was. You know, he's growing his business like crazy. I mean, his business is growing literally on steroids, but he's actually found organizations where now he sits on the board. Started as a volunteer and now sits on the board. So Anissa may figure out that this organization, you know, it was a great experience. She met some people, but it really wasn't her, I think, cause that she's going to put, you know, her future free time behind or dedicate it to. So she might go to something else. You know, I like live music, so I don't know if there's, you know, on the coast you can volunteer at the wharf for concerts. So you get to, you know, experience the concert, you know, take some tickets, scan some tickets or whatever, and you're going to be building relationships with your other team members that are volunteering at that event. All right. We got anything else in the chat? Let's see. Yeah. Anissa says, come on, Blake. Come on, Blake. Where are you at, Blake? Where are you volunteering? I mean,
I know.
Blake does give blood or donates his plasma every week, so he probably thinks that
Hey,
counts.
I'll tell you what, I've met a lot of interesting people.
But you know, listen, and here's the thing: Blake has the ability to talk to people, talk to strangers, and really carry on conversations. He's got a lot of knowledge in his brain about sports and music and all kind of different things, and that helps him really, you know, just kind of talk shop with people. So, in summary, I think I can let y'all out here on time today and make it a 30-minute call. But this business is simple. It's not easy. Okay. So it's very simple to make a decision to sign up to volunteer with an organization or organizations today. Today. Think fast, act fast. The world belongs to people that think fast and act fast. Success favors speed. So you can do that today. You can also start doing your deep MLS research today on a specific zip code. So if you're not prepared to pick a large subdivision, if you're not wanting or willing to be a new construction specialist, a new first time homebuyer specialist, you know, at the very least, you need to pick a zip code and go an inch wide and a mile deep on the data. And guess what? That research is going to give you content to post. Hey, did you know that the days on market in this zip code is going up or has increased 15% since the first of the year? Stuff like that. And that adds to your credibility. That adds to your credibility. All right. And then it's kind of a little bit unfair, but I think what Alex is going to experience when, not if, he volunteers for a very worthy Hispanic organization in the greater metro area, that those people want to support their people. So, you know, if you are an immigrant, if you are a minority, your people want to support you first and foremost. Okay. So we've got agents that are, you know, in the pride community. There's all different types of communities. But I mean, hell, you could be a hunter and there's a big community there, you know? So think about that. Think about like the opportunity you're not taking advantage of. I've met, you know, realtors. Well, I've met at least one realtor in Birmingham that just didn't want to advertise that, you know, didn't want to get involved in the gay community, even though they were gay. And I'm like, what? I mean, that doesn't make any sense because the gay realtors I know are just crushing it because their community wants to support them. All right, what do we got? Any comments before we go? We're at 31 minutes.
No, I just a lot of these agents need to spend a little more time saying kind of that Jim Carrey movie, The Yes Man.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of that philosophy is like get involved as much as you can. Like you'd be surprised what'll shake loose on, especially if you go in with no intention of growing your business off of it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what Jay said. He was like, and I think we could. Colin's not here to validate this, but I think it's absolutely true for him. He wakes up every day thinking about how to serve his community, and he just knows. I mean, the proof is in his bank account that the more he serves, the more people he helps, the more relationships he builds, the more his income grows. So it can also, I think, take some pressure off of you. So if you think about, oh, well, these agents are developing their YouTube channel and they're mastering this and they're learning this and they're doing that. You really can do that very one piece at a time, but you need to go out and volunteer right away. Right? I mean, we're talking about low hanging fruit from open houses and volunteering. It's like I could meet somebody at open house that immediately wants to go out and buy something. So it could be, it's my fastest source to a transaction is, I would say talking to people. All right. So having daily conversations, getting involved in local organizations that need volunteers in your target, in your marketplace, and host just really high level open houses. So some of the stuff that kind of trickles down from that would just be, selecting that zip code and getting out and previewing homes. You're going to be surprised how much getting out and touring homes in your target zip code or in your target community, neighborhood, subdivision, whatever, is going to help your confidence. It's going to give you, just this much more comprehensive market knowledge, and you're just going to be seen as a professional agent, especially if you use those opportunities to create social media content. You're going to be seen as what people are looking for: a full-time, serious, professional real estate agent that knows the market data and knows how to market themselves and properties. That's the secret sauce, all of it. All right. So you've been given the keys to the kingdom. You know, you're holding the keys. It's up to you whether you stick them in the lock and unlock the door and walk through it. So that's the simple part, right? We got the keys. It's just not easy to walk through that door, and I hope you guys will, because it's 100% worth it. All right, if you need some one-on-one time, you guys just reach out to me on my cell, 251-583-9728, and I'll work on getting some more guests for the coming weeks. And I appreciate y'all joining us this morning. Bye.